Hey guys, 𝙒𝙖𝙖𝙣𝙠𝙨 back. Join me on a fun Sunday bike ride as I journey towards the CN Tower, which is far in the distance, but I'll arrive there in about an hour and a half and get you guys a good shot. This video will be more so geared towards other Canadians who are seeking for a better way of life, who are perhaps fed up with the high cost of living, the insane taxation, partly the weather, and perhaps largely due to the government here we have in Canada. So if you are someone who's fed up with a lot of the things going on here, which I will be exploring throughout my bike ride, I highly recommend you stick along for the journey and hear my thoughts on the issues I see currently going on in Canada and how the crypto asset 𝙏𝙗𝙖 could be what you're seeking to go elsewhere and live off the yield that the crypto asset 𝙏𝙗𝙖 could afford you. So stay tuned and we're gonna have a fun bike ride. Enjoy the B-roll, guys. Hey guys, so hope you're enjoying all the B-roll. I'm going to be posting up more. I'm currently at a park with my bike, taking in the warm summer weather that we're going to have for perhaps another month or two. In Canada, it's cold as shit for 7 to 8 months of the year. So I'd like to list just the top issues I have with Canada. Obviously the big ones being the theft through taxation, the government policies, and the high cost of living, as well as give you the solution, a tried and true solution that I can vouch for now that it's been successful for myself. So in Canada, we have a high personal income tax. You quickly move up through the brackets, and there's a 50% capital gains tax. Starting next year, January of 2022, there will be a luxury vehicle tax of 30%, instead of the 13% that we're paying for all other goods on vehicles over 100,000. So not only imports, but also trucks and other domestic vehicles. In addition to that, they're proposing, and I believe next year it will be law, on capital gains on principal residency. So a lot of the theft through taxation is moving towards taxing unrealized gains, and here in Canada, with the hyperinflated real estate market, the government's looking to tax you on the unrealized gains of your $1 million home. A lot of their loose policies by the Prime Minister with no policy.
Would you support a slightly higher tolerance for inflation?
I don't know. When I think about the biggest, most important economic policy this government, if re-elected, would move forward, you'll forgive me if I don't think about monetary policy.
It is exactly the example of the kinds of things you need to do to counter the she-cession and turn it into a she-covery. Fact is, the Conservatives don't talk about that in their lengthy platform.
By the Minister of Finance.
I really believe has created a window of political opportunity and maybe an epiphany.
They've made the real estate market across Canada super inflated. It's truly a shit show. When you try to buy a home and try to survive past renting, you're looking to spend $1 million to $1.5 million, not only in the city, but even like 2 hours outside the city. So even all the suburbs have become unrealistically expensive. They're conditioning people to take on as much debt as possible. Canada is one of the most indebted societies, I believe. I think there's like a ranking where Canada sits at the top of the most debt to GDP. For anyone who's in Canada and awake, they can see the problems. Everything from financial side of things, the social side of things, just the level of obedience that people are expressing. Now that their freedoms have been exchanged for safety, I think this really is the fall of the West. Great powers have fallen due to the erosion of freedom, not security. They make it difficult for people to be productive, to save. Those are all methods of freedom of speech. And when the government keeps printing more and more money, hyperinflates the housing market, they make it nearly impossible for people to save because their savings are being carved right underneath them. We have nearly a zero interest rate here in Canada, and that's likely to continue indefinitely. If anything, I think it's more likely to go negative than it is to increase, right? This whole house of cards is built on debt. And I believe it's a misconception that people think that the bubble can just burst. I think it's more like Venezuela, where it went to hyperinflation. And instead of the stock market, creeping up, and crashing, it's just gonna creep up and then just blow up. And the last thing that I find an issue with here in Canada is government. The pendulum has swung far to the left. Canadians, for the past two most recent federal terms, have voted for Liberal. It's actually much more socialist, run by a dictator who speaks highly of communism and the Chinese Communist Party.
He was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know.
They've obviously, like a lot of Western countries, overreacted to this cerveza sickness. And starting in September, they will be mandating vax passports.
We're not a country that makes vaccination mandatory. I believe the vaccines should be mandatory for travel on planes and trains.
Bribing each of the provinces with $1 billion to ensure that they also comply. Now, they've turned the population into obedient, compliant slaves that will value their safety over freedoms. And I believe in a matter of months, Canada will look very similar to Australia with their draconian laws and hopefully see some protests. But nonetheless, if you have woken up to these issues, if you also recognize that these are problematic in your own evolution, if you're not looking to just to sit by idly and let your liberties be taken away from you, and you're perhaps seeking a better quality of life, well then you're going to need to be financially free to do that. Either in the form of capital, a significant lump of sum that could perhaps retire you and your family to be able to live off of, or in the form of cash flow, passive income that you can generate from anywhere in the world, like an online business, that could again afford you and your family to live life on your own terms and take back your freedom, liberties, and most importantly, your time. And the path to financial freedom is going to be investment. It's going to be a way that you can turn a little bit of money into a lot of money and yield passive income. Now, I'm making this video because for the past 8 months, I've been successful with a crypto asset HEX. HEX is ranked the top 3 cryptocurrency by market cap. In simple terms, it's a cryptocurrency with a unique utility to enable you to participate in its inflation and thus generate yield and interest. It mimics the real life certificate of deposit, which is a mechanism to enable you to lock up your money and delay gratification, essentially paying your future self and reaping a high interest rate. The average APY in HEX is 40%, though it varies depending on the length of your stake. And the best part of it, in my opinion, is the fact that the interest is generated trustlessly. So there's no middleman, there's no counterparty risk. It's simply you being your own bank and in essence your own Federal Reserve. And I'm making this video 8 months after I've invested in this project to vouch for the fact that it's already made me financially free, like thousands of other people. Great quote by Warren Buffett is, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. The crypto asset HEX, with its interest and significant price appreciation mechanics, does exactly what it's set out to do, make people extremely wealthy. And another quote I love is by Albert Einstein. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. That cannot be more true in HEX. Not only are you getting a high interest rate, but it is being multiplied by the scarcity and rarity of the underlying token in which you're being paid interest with. You can customize the length and the duration of your stake. It can be anything from 1 day to 15 years, and you can ladder your stakes. So perhaps you divide your investment over the course of several years, and they slowly come out, in which case you can reap what you sow and gain the interest to be able to be financially free. Now, if you haven't woken up to the issues that I've talked about already, then I highly recommend checking out Steve Saretsky on YouTube. He's got a brilliant channel, which I binged last year, about Canadian real estate. And he opened my eyes to what's really going on in Canada, motivating me to avoid putting a down payment on a property, and instead use that money to invest in HEX.
Savings instruments are being destroyed. If you go into your GIC, you go into your government bond, we go into the Eurozone, if you've got junk bond yielding 0, all this capital starts flowing out of it. It flows into where? Well, one of the assets everybody's well aware of is the housing market. I don't care if it's in the US, I don't care if it's in Europe, I don't care if it's in Canada, but capital is flowing into where it can get any semblance of a return. So long as you can go into the bank and get a variable rate mortgage today at 1.5%, with inflation currently running at 3%, you will continue to get a lot of capital flows into the housing market. People see it, they go 30-year bull market, real negative interest rates, I'm being incentivized to borrow money. I mean, the alternative is you could not put it in the housing market and you could put it into a GIC, which will get you, 0.25%. If you compound that over 100 years, you might make a couple $100. This is what's happening.
Also, check out YouTuber Nomad Capitalist to learn where you could potentially go where you're treated better.
If you're in Canada, the tax system is unfair because you're paying a boatload. You've seen how your government won't help you. You'll see how they'll over-regulate you. They'll take away your freedoms. They'll jack up tax rates on a whim because it's politically popular. They're not doing anything for you. And oh, by the way, you know what Canadians tell me? We cut down the tall flowers here. We don't want people to be too successful. That's why a lot of Canadians from Kevin O'Leary on down moved to the United States, so they say, because they can at least be around people who are, who want them to win. And even there in the United States, they're saying the same thing. Most people are going in the direction of saying you have too much.
If you want to get red-pilled on politics, someone I love on YouTube is George Gammon. He has a good PG version of what's going on. Everything is included with sources.
Understand the mentality of the society we live in today. And that's a society that prioritizes safety and not feeling any pain above anything else. Personal freedom and liberty is an afterthought. And that's something we can only consider after we know that we're 100% safe. And we see this playing out in states like California, but we also see it playing out economically across our entire country. Is there any difference between the lockdown or the mandatory masks and quantitative easing? It's the exact same thing. It's meant to make sure that we as a society are safe and don't feel any pain.
But if you want to get the R-rated version, then I highly recommend checking out Vigilante on Odyssey. Again, a brilliant channel outlining what's currently going on and how you can prepare for what's potentially to come.
Sort of like Canadians. I used to think Canadians are mostly like hockey players. They like to fight and drink and fuck. No, something happened. Now they like paying taxes and obeying authorities. I don't know, whatever. I'm in El Salvador, the savior. A town called Freedom. You guys go to the camps if you want.
So with that, I want to thank you for watching the entirety of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the B-roll and my thoughts on the current issues with Canada as well as the solution. And I'm sure if you scroll down in the comment section, you'll find a lot of people satisfied about this crypto asset HEX. Hopefully motivating you to look into it and potentially use it as your own vehicle to become financially free. If you want to learn more, check out my website, www.stakedwealth.com. Watch some videos, read about it, book a one-on-one with me. That's something I wanted when I got in January of 2021. Just having a one-on-one to be able to bounce ideas off and ask questions. And now I'm simply just passing it on and letting others schedule a call with me to have their questions answered. But nonetheless, do your own research. None of this is financial advice, and I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you become financially free one day and be able to take back your freedom, your liberties, and live life on your own terms, however that may look like. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Financial independence for the individual. Why is that dream so important? Because from financial independence stems all other freedoms and all other independence. Think about it. How are we controlled by the power structure that exists today? We are working for corporations, getting salaries. We have houses and cars. We have everything that we want. But are you free? Are you free to quit? Right now, today, to call your boss and say, I quit, I'm not coming back, and your life won't change? No, your life will change in ways that you do not want. One way to look at what we are as individuals compared to the power structure and those on the top is we are slaves. Maybe an ugly word, but it is the truth of our existence. We are slaves as long as our economy and our economic interactions are controlled by other people. And are they controlled? Can governments print more money whenever they choose? Can they control interest rates, inflation and deflation? Can they monitor your purchases and tell you what you can and cannot buy and from whom? So the dream of economic freedom is a powerful dream. Do we still have that dream? Are you here today to learn how to make more money within the system that we are trying to escape? Or are you here to learn how you can be free as individuals?